When I was in college, I worked part-time as a janitor in a children's hospital. The place was usually busy during the day, filled with doctors, nurses, and parents rushing around. But at night, it was different. The halls were too quiet, too empty, and sometimes that silence was worse than any noise. But there's one thing I'll never forget: the red balloon. My name's Daniel. I was 19 at the time. I usually worked night shifts, cleaning the halls and empty rooms. I didn't mind it. It paid well, and I actually liked the calm. One night around 2 a.m., I was mopping the floor near the pediatric wing. That part of the hospital was closed off at night. No kids, no parents, no staff. The lights were dimmed to save power, so the long hall looked like something straight out of a horror movie. That's when I noticed it. Floating right in the middle of the hallway was a balloon. A single red balloon. It was tied to nothing, no string, no weight. Just hovering a few feet off the ground, completely still. At first, I thought maybe one of the nurses left it from a birthday earlier in the day. But balloons don't just float perfectly still like that. They drift. They bob. This one was motionless. I tried to brush it off and kept working, but every time I looked up, the balloon seemed closer. It wasn't floating randomly. It was gliding. Slowly, directly toward me. I froze, gripping the mop handle. The balloon stopped just 10 feet away and stayed there, swaying slightly, like it was waiting. "Okay, this is weird," I whispered to myself. I wasn't easily scared, but something about it made my chest tighten. I stepped forward and swung the mop handle through it. Nothing. Just a balloon. It drifted upward, then settled back down. I laughed nervously and pushed my cart away, pretending it didn't bother me. But as I turned the corner, I heard the faintest squeak. The sound of rubber sliding along the floor. I looked back. The balloon was following me. I sped up, trying to shake off the unease. My job required me to clean one of the older, unused sections of the hospital. The doors were usually locked, but that night, one was left cracked open. I pushed inside, and the smell hit me immediately. Dust, old wood, stale air. This wing hadn't been used in years. I started sweeping, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Out of the corner of my eye, movement. The balloon. It was inside with me. This time, it didn't float calmly. It darted quick, sharp movements like it had a mind of its own. It shot across the hallway, then stopped dead in front of a door. Room 6B. My heart pounded. Something in me didn't want to open that door, but I felt pulled toward it, like the balloon was leading me. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside was an old children's ward. Tiny beds lined up, rusted cribs, faded wallpaper with cartoon animals peeling off the walls. The air was freezing cold. The balloon floated to the center of the room and stopped. And that's when I heard it. A giggle. A child's giggle, soft and echoing, though the room was empty. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. No answer. But then, one of the cribs began to rock on its own, slowly, back and forth. I backed out of the room, slamming the door shut. But before it closed all the way, I swore I saw something standing in the far corner. A small figure, just staring. I bolted down the hall, dragging my cart behind me. The balloon zipped after me, bouncing off walls, darting around corners. It wasn't just floating anymore, it was chasing me. The squeak of rubber against the floor echoed through the halls, louder, faster. I burst into the main lobby, hoping someone else was around. But the place was empty. Completely empty. The balloon stopped at the edge of the lobby, hovering, watching. Then slowly, it rose higher, up toward the ceiling. And as it did, I saw something attached to it, a small, pale hand, a child's hand gripping the string. My knees almost buckled. I stared in disbelief as the balloon turned, and behind it was a face. A little boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. But his skin was grayish, his eyes completely hollow, and his mouth stretched into a wide, unnatural smile. He tilted his head, still clutching the balloon. Then, in the faintest voice, he whispered, "Want to play?" I stumbled backward, tripping over my cart. When I looked up again, he was gone. The balloon, the boy, everything. The lobby was silent, as if nothing had ever happened. I quit that job the next day. I didn't care about the money. I couldn't step foot in that hospital again. A few weeks later, I was talking to one of my old coworkers. I hesitated, but finally asked him about the old pediatric wing. His face went pale. He told me that years ago a fire broke out in that part of the hospital. Several kids didn't make it, and one of them was a boy who loved red balloons. I didn't need to hear more. I knew what I saw. And to this day, whenever I see a red balloon, my stomach sinks. Because I'll never forget that whisper. "Want to play?"